Hey guys, in this video the lovely Mr. B is going to be taking you through algebraic division for your A-level maths. Now there are lots of examples in here ranging from the not too nasty to the quite nasty at the end. You can work through these at your own pace. Jump into the video wherever you feel comfortable, pause it after you see the question, try and work it out for yourself and then play the video to check your working. Now to support this there are thousands of questions waiting for you over on my website.
We are going to have a look at algebraic long division. Now this starts off as a method to divide expressions by smaller expressions, but eventually we can use this to factorize cubic equations. So we'll start off practicing how to just do long division and then look at the cubic part of it towards the end. So we start off with x cubed plus x squared, take away 9x, take away 9, and we're dividing it by x plus 3. So we set it up using the kind of bus stop method division you might be used to. Now, the way we're going to do this is we can't do a full division. We can't divide x cubed by x plus 3. The plus 3 part's going to be a problem for us. So what we do is we do the closest estimate we can. So we're going to divide x cubed just by the x, and we'll sort the 3 part out later. So x cubed divided by x will give us x squared. So what we can do is we can write x squared on the answer line. Now we need to sort out that plus 3 bit. So what we do is we take the x squared and we multiply it by our divider. So x squared times x will give us x cubed, and x squared times 3 will give us 3x squared. This is kind of where we correct for not dividing by that plus 3. So now we've done that, what we need to do is take away what we found away from our expression, because the x cubed plus 3x squared, that's the bit we divided away so far. So let's see what we've got left to divide. X cubed take away x cubed is 0. That's why we did this. Then we have x squared take away 3x squared. That's going to be a negative 2x squared. Then we're taking 0 away from negative 9x and negative 9. So they stay as they are. So we divided the first term by x. We got a bit extra. We got the 3x squared and we've corrected for that. So now we're going to divide the next term by our x, but we're not going to divide it by the x squared. We're going to divide it by our brand new x squared, which is a negative 2x squared. A negative 2x squared divided by x should give you negative 2x. So we can write that on the answer line. Now again, we didn't divide by the plus 3, so now we have to correct for that. So we're going to multiply a negative 2x by our original divider. Negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared. You'll see it's the same as the term above it, which is the point of this. And then negative 2x times 3 will give us negative 6x. So again, now we have to take away the bit that we've found. So a negative 2x squared, take away a negative 2x squared, take away a negative double negative. So we end up adding them together, and that's going to make them cancel out. Negative 2x squared plus 2x squared gives us 0. Then we look at the x terms. So we have negative 9x, take away a negative 6x. Again, it's a double negative. Just look at it. Negative 9, take away negative 6. That's negative 9 plus 6, which will give us negative 3. So we negative 3x. Then we didn't take anything away from the negative 9, so we leave that as it is. We're going to go back and divide by x again. And now we're going to divide by the third term. Now, it's not the original third term, negative 9x. It's a brand new x term at the bottom. Negative 3x divided by x will give us negative 3. And then again, we haven't divided by the 3 in the divider. So now we've got to go back and multiply by that divider, see what we get. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times positive 3 gives us negative 9. We take those two expressions away from each other. And what you'll see is they're both the same expression. The negative is going to be a double negative here. So it's actually going to give us 0 if you take those two expressions away from each other. Now let's go back to our original question. The original question says, show that we have x plus 3 as a factor. Now, when you do a long division like this, and your remainder is equal to 0, that's a number you're left with at the end of the division, that means that the thing you divided by, in this case x plus 3, is a factor. So again, when you do a division, you can show something's a factor by showing that the remainder at the end of the division is 0. Now, there's more we can do with this, but we're going to practice doing the division first. Then we'll look at the extra bits and pieces of this when we get up to the hard questions. So the method's quite complicated, so let's practice the method. We are dividing by x plus 4, and the number we are dividing is 3x cubed plus 10x squared minus 9x minus 4. Set up your division. Now again, we've got two numbers to divide by, the x and the 4, so we only divide by the x term, and then we sort out the missing bit later on. So let's divide through by the x and pick our first term, 3x cubed. 3x cubed divided by x will give us 3x squared. Now, we didn't divide by the 4, so we have to kind of take that 4 into account. So we multiply what we found by our divider. 3x squared times x is 3x cubed, but then 3x squared times 4 is going to give us 12x squared. So by not dividing by that 4, we've got an extra 12x squared to account for. So we need to take it away from our expression. 3x cubed take away 3x cubed is 0. So the first term will always cancel out. Then our next term, 10x squared take away 12x squared will give us a negative 2x squared. So what we do now, we're going to move on and we're going to divide x through what we've just found, the negative 2x squared. So we divided the first term, 3x cubed. Now we're dividing the second term, negative 2x cubed. It's the new version of the second term, not the original one, the 10x squared. Negative 2x squared divided by x will give you negative 2x. We'll write that on the answer line. Then again, we didn't divide by the 4, so now we have to multiply that by the 4 to kind of account for it and make sure we've actually used it in our calculation. So negative 2x times x will give us negative 2x squared. Negative 2x times 4 will give us negative 8x. Now, again, we need to take that away from our equation. Now, the last one, just forgot to bring down the 9x and the negative 4. We're going to need those now. So we take these away from each other. Negative 2x squared take away a negative 2x squared to give you 0. Negative 9 take away a negative 8. Again, these double negatives are happening. So negative 9 plus 8 will give us negative x. And again, we're doing nothing with a 4. So now we can move on to our next division. We're going to take the x again and divide it by a new term, the negative x. So now we're dividing the third term. But again, our latest version of the third term. Negative x divided by x should give you negative 1. Now we need to multiply that by our original divider. Negative 1 times x is negative x. And negative 1 times 4 should give us negative 4. If you take those away from each other, if you take into account the double negatives, you should get a 0. Negative x take away negative x, double negative. Negative x plus x is 0. Same thing with a force. So again, we can say because the remainder is 0, we've shown that this is a factor. The x plus 4 is a factor. I need to write a sentence for that. So I'll write the sentence one more time, but in future examples, I'll just assume that you know to write the sentence. The remainder is equal to 0. Therefore, x plus 4 is a factor. If you don't write a sentence referencing that the remainder is 0, then you're probably going to lose a mark. For our next example, our factor is x minus 3, so we've got a negative factor this time. And we're dividing that into 4x cubed, take away 11x squared, minus 6x plus 9. Now, again, we're not going to be able to divide by both the x and the negative 3, so we only divide by the x. X divided into our first term, 4x cubed, should give you 4x squared. Then because we didn't use the negative 3, we've got to use it now. 4x squared times x is 4x cubed. 4x squared times negative 3 should give you negative 12x squared. Then we take that away from the rest of the expression to see what we're left over with. And whatever's left over, we need to continue with. First terms calculate to make 0. Negative 11 take away a negative 12, double negative, but adding on 12. That should give a positive x squared. So now we divide that by x. And before we do that, let's just bring everything else down as well. We took nothing away from the 6x and the 9. So x squared divided by x is x. Multiply it by the divider. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. So again, we do our takeaway. See what we're left over with. First term should cancel out to make 0. And negative 6x take away a negative 3x, so double negative again. That should give you a negative 3x. And with nothing with a 9. We didn't take anything away from that. So now moving on to our last divide, dividing again by x, with our new third term. Negative 3x divided by x should give negative 3. Then we multiply that by the divider. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 3 gives a positive 9. Take those away from each other, you see it's the same term twice, so it's going to give us 0. So again, you can now write your sentence, and you say that x minus 3 is a factor because the remainder is 0. If the remainder is 0, then we've shown it's a factor. Just the same as I use normal numbers. You can say things like 3 is a factor of 12, because when you divide 12 by 3, you get 4, which is a whole number, and that means there's a remainder 0. The next question has got an extra term. So we're dividing by x minus 2, but the number we're dividing by doesn't start with a cube this time. It starts with a power 4. We've got x to the power of 4, take away 4x cubed, take away 3x squared, plus 10x, plus 8. Now, all this means is there's just going to be one extra line of working out. The method is going to be exactly the same. So the first thing to do is divide by the x and divide the first term by the x. That should give us x cubed. Multiply that by our original. That should give you x to the power of 4. Take away 2x cubed. Take the two expressions away from each other. First term cancels out. Negative 4. Take away a negative 2, double negative. So that should give you negative 2x cubed. Everything else then 0 taken away from it. So you can write it out as it was. Let's move on to the next term. It's going to be the latest version of the second term. Negative 2x cubed divided by x should give us negative 2x squared. Multiply that by our original divider. That should give negative 2x cubed. And then negative 2 times negative 2 is going to be a positive 4, with positive 2x squared. And then what we need to do is take that and divide it by our original. The first two terms will cancel out. The negative 3x squared take away 4x squared will be negative 7x squared. And again, everything else is 0 taken away from it, so it stays the same. Now moving on to the third term. Again, the latest version of the third term. Divide it through by x, and you get negative 7x. Multiply that by the original, and that gives us negative 7x squared. Negative 7 times negative 2 will give us a positive 14, so a positive 14x. Take that away from what's left over, and that's going to give us 10 take away 14 being negative 4x. And we're doing nothing with the 8. Now we're on our last step. We're going to again divide by x. It's going to be a brand new fourth term, negative 4x. And if you divide that through by x, you should get negative. If you multiply that by the divider, then we get negative 4x, and negative 4 times negative 2 should give you a positive 8. So again, we've got the same expression twice. Take them away, we get 0. And then you write your sentence. X minus 2 is a factor, because when you divide, the remainder is 0. The next question has got a coefficient on the x, but it's going to work the same way. So we have 2x minus 3. We're dividing 4x to the power of 4, take away 8x to the power of 3, take away 21x squared, plus 18x, plus 27. So set up your divide. Again, we're trying to divide by two things, the 2x and the negative 3. So we're only going to divide by the x term, which is 2x, and we are going to include a 2 in this. So we have 4x to the power of 4. So divide the numbers. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Then divide the letters. X to the power of 4 divided by x is x to the power of 3. Now, I'm not going to draw the arrows from this point onwards. We're going to multiply our brand new number by our original divider. 2x cubed multiplied by 2x should give you 4x to the power of 4. So the number we started with. But then we're going to multiply it by the negative 3. And that would give negative 6x cubed. And so we're going to take that away now. So as usual, the first terms cancel out to being 0. We're going to have a double negative here. So negative 8 plus 6 will be negative 2x cubed. And then we can divide that by 2x. So negative 2 divided by 2 is going to be negative 1. And then x cubed divided by x is going to be x squared. So we have negative 1x squared. Multiply that by the 2x minus 3. That gives us negative 2x cubed. And it's going to be plus 3x squared. And then we set up our takeaway. Now, I can't see a lot of numbers to take away here, so I need to bring down the numbers from the previous question. All these are 0 taken away from them, so there wasn't any maths to do. Again, the first term should cancel out. The second term is what we're looking at. Negative 21, take away another 3, be negative 24x squared. And then we're taking away 0 from the 18x and the 27. So now we divide by 2x again. We've done the first term, we've done the second term, so now we're doing the third term. Negative 24x squared divided by 2x. 24 divided by 2 is going to give us 12, so that'll be negative 12, and x squared divided by x will be x. So multiply that by 2x, we get negative 24x squared. Then negative 12 times negative 3 will give us a positive 36x. So let's do the takeaway. First term cancelled out, we'll look at the second term. 18 take away 36 will give us negative 18x, and we're taking nothing away from the 27. Now move on to our final division. Now it's going to be the fourth term we divide. Negative 18 divided by 2 gives us negative 9. X divided by x gives us 1. So 9 times 1 is 9. Multiply that by our original. So negative 9 times 2x is negative 18x. And negative 9 times negative 3 will give us a positive 27. So as usual, we've got the same expression twice here. So if you take those away, we will get 0. So if the remainder of dividing by 2x minus 3 is 0, then it must be a factor. Something's a factor when the remainder is 0. With the next set of questions, we're not being asked to prove that something's a factor. We're just being asked to divide by it. So this is another way of phrasing a algebraic long division. So we use the same method. We have x plus 2. We're dividing x cubed plus 4x squared minus 3x minus 18. Set up the division. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to divide each term by x, one at a time. But every time we do that, because we didn't divide by the positive 2, then we're going to need to multiply by that to account for it. So dividing through by x cubed divided by x is x squared. Multiply that by our divider, x squared times x is x cubed. So that bit was correct. But then x squared times 2 will give us 2x squared. So that bit's wrong. You need to take it away from the next part of what we're doing. Because if we've already got a 2x squared, then we don't want to divide a 4x squared because we've already got half of it. So we only want to divide by the 2x squared. So let's do the takeaway. The first terms cancel out. 4x squared take away 2x squared is 2x squared. And the rest stays the same as we're not taking anything away from those. Divide by x again. This time our second term, our new version of the second term, 2x squared divided by x will be 2x. You multiply that by the divider, you get 2x squared plus 4x. So we take that away. First term cancels out. Then we have negative 3. Take away 4 is negative 7. And again, we took nothing away from the negative 18. Divide by x again. This time it's going to be the third term. Negative 7x divided by x is going to be negative 7. Multiply that by our divider, gives us negative 7x. But then we get negative 14. So now we do our takeaway. The first terms cancel out, but negative 18 take away negative 14 gives us negative 4. And there's no x term there, so we're not going to continue dividing here. Now, unlike the last 5 questions, this one, the remainder is negative 4. The remainder isn't 0. So what we've done here is we've proven that x plus 2 is not a factor. And you might want to write a sentence on that depending on the question. So I'm going to say that the remainder is negative 4. Therefore, x plus 2 is not a factor of x cubed plus 4x squared minus 3x minus 18. So let's practice some questions with the remainder isn't 0. So our next one, we're going to divide by x minus 1. We're dividing x cubed plus x squared minus 9x minus 9. Now I'm hoping that roughly we've got the idea of what's going on here. So I'm going to try and speed up. So I'm going to do a little bit less explanation now. So we're going to divide x cubed by x, which gives us x squared. We'll multiply x squared by x minus 1. We get x cubed, take away x squared. We take the answer away from our original expression, and that's going to give us 2x squared. There's a double negative there, and the rest will stay as it is. So now we're going to divide 2x squared by x. That's going to give us 2x, and multiply that by a divider. We get 2x squared minus 2x. Take that away from our expression. First terms cancel out. Second term, negative 9. Take away a negative 2, double negative. That'll be negative 7x. Divide that by x. We get negative 7, and multiply that by x minus 1, we get negative 7x, and it's going to be a plus 7. Now we take that away, we should have brought down the negative 9 for the one before. The first term cancels out, but negative 9 take away another 7 is negative 16. So the remainder is negative 16. So again, if you're being asked for it, you can now write a sentence and say that x minus 1 is not a factor because the remainder isn't 0. So let's continue trying to speed this up. So we've got 2x plus 3. We're dividing 6x cubed plus 5x squared minus 2x minus 1. We're going to divide by just the first term, the 2x. So 6x cubed divided by 2x should give you 3x squared. And then multiply that by the divider, 3x cubed plus 9x squared. Take that away. First term cancels out. 5 take away 9 will give us negative 4. And then the rest is the same because we're not taking away from those. Now we're going to divide negative 4x squared by 2x. That should give you negative 2x. Multiply that by the divider. Negative 4x squared. Take away 6x. Take that away. First term cancels out, second term -2, take away -6, double negative, so it'll be a +4. And again, we're taking nothing away from the -1. So now we're going to divide that by 2x. 4x divided by 2x is going to be 2. And multiply 2 by the divider, and we get 4x plus 6. So then when we take those away, -1 take away 6 should give you -7. So again, we can say that 2x minus 3 is not a factor because the remainder is not equal to 0. What we can also do is write a sentence for this where we say that 6x cubed plus 5x squared minus 2x minus 1 divided by 2x plus 3 is equal to what we have on the answer line, which is 3x squared minus 2x plus 2, remainder -7. Now let's try a longer example. So we have x plus 4, and we're dividing x to the power of 4 plus 8x cubed plus 23x squared plus 28x plus 12. Set up the division, and then divide each term by x one at a time. X to the power of 4 divided by x will be x to the power of 3, multiply it by the divider, get x to the power of 4 plus 4x cubed. Take those away. 8x cubed take away 4x is 4x cubed. The rest stays as it is. Divide the next term by x. That should give you 4x squared. Multiply it by the divider, 4x cubed plus 16x squared. So take those away. 23 take away 16 is going to give us 7x squared, and the rest stays as it is. So now divide that by x, that should give us 7x, and multiply that by the divider, you should get 7x squared plus 28x. Now, when we take away this, we're actually going to skip a step, because not only does the first term cancel out, the second term also cancels out. So there isn't going to be an x term to divide by x. Essentially, it's going to be a +0 when we get to the end of this. So when we do the takeaway, we'll be left with just -12, and that is our remainder. So again, we know that x plus 4 won't be a factor because the remainder isn't 0, and we only have 3 terms to write down for our answer: x cubed plus 4x squared plus 7x. The number term at the end essentially is a 0. Now, a last example like this is going to be a little bit harder. Now we're dividing by 2x plus 3, and the number we are dividing is 2x to the power of 4 plus 12x cubed plus 14x squared, take away 12x, take away 16. We're going to divide through by 2x. So 2x divided by 2x, that's going to cancel out, so we'll just be left with x cubed. Multiply that by the divider, we get 2x to the power of 4, and we get 3x cubed. So far, doesn't seem like it's any different. That's going to give us 9x cubed, and the rest stays the same. Now, where this gets difficult, when it's a little bit different, is we're going to divide a 9 by a 2. Now, there's a few ways of doing this. The best way is probably just going to be to leave it as a fraction. So 9 divided by 2, we can write it as 9 over 2. Then x cubed is going to become x squared if we divide it by x. And now we need to multiply that by a divider. Now, we know the first one's going to be 9x cubed. The second one, we're times in by 3. So 9 times 3 is going to give us 27. With 27 over 2 x squared. Then we need to take that away from a 14. So we do actually want to change this into a mixed number. So 26 divided by 2 would be 13, and we had 1 left over, so it should be 13.5 x squared. We can also go back and change the 9 over 2 into a mixed number. 9 divided by 2 should be 4.5. So now let's do the takeaway and see what happens. The first one will cancel out. 14 take away 13.5 is going to be a half. So it'll be a half x squared. So it's not as difficult as maybe it could have been, and then bring down the rest. Now, where this will get tricky is now we need to divide a half by 2. So what's half of a half? Well, half of a half is going to be a quarter. So that's going to give us a quarter x. And then we have to multiply that by a divider. Again, we know it's going to make a half x squared, but then multiplying by 3. This is good that it's in fractions, because that's going to give us a quarter times 3 is 3/4. So we'll have 3/4 x. So then we take that away. -12 take away 3/4 will give us -12 and 3/4 x. And now we need to divide that by 2. So the -12 divided by 2 will give us -6, and then 3/4 divided by 2. It's 2 ways to approach it. 3/4 divided by 2, we could divide the numerator by 2 and get 1.5 quarters, and then double it with equivalent fractions to get 3/8. Alternatively, with 3/4 divided by 2, one way to divide a fraction by 2 is to make the denominator twice as big, because then we're dividing by twice as much. So if you double the denominator, we get 3 over 8 as well. So that's going to be 6 and 3/8 on the answer line. Multiplying that by 2, we know that's going to be 12 and 3/4. But now we're going to multiply it by 3. Now, again, this might be where you want to do a bit of working out on the side to work it out. 6 times 3 will give us 18. 3/8 times 3 will give us 9/8, which is 1 1/8. So altogether, that's going to give us 19 and 1/8. So now we take that bit away. We've got negative 16, double negative, and 19 and 1/8. So that's going to give us 3 and 1/8 as our remainder. So what you'll commonly find as well is the harder algebraic division questions are also going to test your fraction skills. If you can use fractions, you can do it without a calculator like I've just done. But if you're not confident working with fractions like this, then one method you can do is turn everything into a decimal. And while that won't be as quick, you don't need any extra skills to work with decimals, as long as you have the calculator with you. So now we've moved on to the difficult part of the topic. We're being asked to factorise a cubic, and nothing about algebraic division has been said to you. However, you know that you can find individual factors of this cubic by dividing those factors and seeing if the remainder is 0. So what we want to do is kind of pick a correct factor and divide it. Now, how do we know what our first factor is? Because of the easy questions, we're given a clue, we're given our first factor. With these ones, we're not. Well, one technique you can use, it's going to be a bit of trial and error, but if you can substitute in a number and get 0, then you've found a factor. So for example, let's say that x is 1. If x is equal to 1, then we would have 1 cubed, take away 3 lots of 1 squared, take away 1, take away 3. So we work this out, powers on a 1 will just give you a 1, so it'll be 1, take away 3, take away 1 plus 3. All of that actually does equal to 0. That means that x equals 1 is something of interest to look at. Now, if you know the way that the kind of factors work, if 1 is going to be a factor, then the kind of bracket version is going to be x minus 1. Because remember, when we have these kind of brackets and they're equal to 0, x is a value that makes a bracket equal to 0. So if x is equal to 1, then we're dividing by x minus 1. We're dividing by the opposite sign. So let's set up our division. And what we'll see is, after we do this division, we'll get something that's really going to help us do the rest of the factorisation. So we're going to divide through by x. So x cubed divided by x will be x squared. Multiply it by a divider, we've got x cubed minus x squared. Take those away, and that's going to give us negative 2x squared. Again, be careful with a double negative. So now we divide negative 2x squared by x, and that gives us negative 2x. Then do the multiplication, and we're going to get a positive 2x next. Take those away, and we're going to get negative 3x. Divide that by x, and we're going to get negative 3. Multiply that by a divider, we get negative 3x, and then negative 3 times negative 1 will be a positive 3, and we can see that our remainder is 0. So we know that x minus 1 is a factor. Now you might be thinking, well, from the substitution, we knew that x minus 1 was a factor. What was the point of doing the algebraic long division to confirm it? Well, actually, this isn't about confirming that the remainder is 0, or does help us to know that we're doing the right thing. What we're interested in now is the actual answer to the division that we've not been using so far. X squared minus 2x minus 3, and we divide it by x minus 1. That means we can now do our first part of the factorisation. X squared minus 2x minus 3 multiplied by x minus 1, so the opposite of the division we just did, should give us our original expression, x cubed minus 3x squared minus x plus 3. Now, this is only a partial factorisation because, with a cubic, we really want to have 3 brackets. And so we only really know one of the ones we want at the end, the x minus. So what are we going to have for the next 2 brackets? Now, we could do the same thing again and guess another factor, but we now had a quadratic and we know how to factorise quadratics. So that's what we're going to do. Now, we can factorise this one by inspection. So we've got negative 3 at the end, so we're definitely have a 3 and a 1. And to get a negative 2 in the middle, we're going to have to take away 3 and add 1. So our final factorisation is going to look like this. If you can't factorise a quadratic by inspection, then you could complete the square, or you could use the quadratic formula. But now you can see we've got our final answer. Our 3 factors, x plus 1, x minus 3, and x minus 1. As an extra, if we said that this was going to be equal to 0, then we'd say that x is equal to negative 1, 3, or a positive 1. Again, making just one of the brackets equal 0, because then no matter what you multiply by the other 2 brackets, multiplying by 0 gives you 0. Moving on to the next example, we're factorising x cubed minus 7x plus 6. So again, we need to be kind of getting our initial factor to divide by. So again, we're going to do a little bit of trial and error here. Now, it's always good to start off with 1 because 1's often a factor and it's quite easy to test if it is or not. So let's test if x is going to be equal to 1. That will give us 1 cubed, take away 7 times 1 plus 6. That's 1 minus 7 plus 6. And altogether, that does equal 0. So again, we know that 1 is going to be an answer. Just remember that the number you divide by isn't going to be 1. It's going to be the opposite. It's going to be x minus 1. So let's start at algebraic long division. Divide by x. So x cubed divided by x is x squared. Multiplied by the divider, x cubed minus x squared. Now you'll notice we don't have an x squared term in our original. So what I'm just going to do here is make sure it's all lined up properly. I'm going to move the negative 7x across. So then when we do our takeaway, essentially we have a 0x squared in our original. And you can even write that in if it's helpful. So 0 take away x squared is take away a negative x squared. That will give us a positive x squared, with the rest being unchanged. So now dividing by x again, multiplying by a divider, and taking away. So I'm rushing through this now so you're more comfortable with how this works. So double negative, that'll give us negative 6x. Divide that by x, multiply by the divider. Negative 6 to negative 1 was a positive 6. So again, our remainder is 0. So now we can write down our expression. X cubed minus 7x plus 6 is equal to x plus x minus 6 multiplied by x minus 1. So our answer and our divider next to each other. Factorize the quadratic if you can. Doing it by inspection, it looks like negative 6 is going to end up coming from a 3 and a 2. To get a positive x in the middle, a larger number must be positive. So there's our final answer. And again, if this was solving an equation that's equal to 0, and it isn't always, sometimes you have to factorize, but if it was equal to 0, then we need x equals 2, x equals negative 3, and x equals 1 as our final answer. Now, as well as factorizing a cubic, we can also have larger ones. So this one's to the power of 4, but we can use the same method. So first we use trial and error to try and find a factor. And with something like this, you'd hope that 1 would be a factor. It'd be pretty easy. Otherwise, it's quite a cruel question. So it'd be quite a lot of work to substitute other things into this other than 1. If we substitute 1, we're going to get 1 to the power of 4. Take away 10 times 1 cubed plus 35 lots of 1 cubed. Take away 50 lots of 1 plus 24. So the reason why this is easy is because if it's powers of 1, it's going to get 1. So it'll be 1, take away 10 plus 35, take away 50 plus 24. And that does give us 0. So now we can start our division. Remember that if 1's a factor, we're dividing by x minus 1. So we've got quite a lot to work through here. We divide through by x. So we get x cubed, multiplied by the divider. We get x to the power of 4, take away x cubed, and take those away. That'll give us negative 9x cubed. The rest stays the same. Keep dividing through by x. Next we'll have negative 9x squared, and then multiply it, do the takeaway. So 35 take away 9 gives 26. Divide through by x again, so that will give us 26x. Multiply that, do the takeaway. Be careful of double negative, it's actually going to be negative 24x next. Divide that through by x and multiply. And it looks like we've got our remainder 0. So now we do our first step of our factorization. So our answer is x cubed, take away 9x squared plus 26x minus 24. And that is being multiplied by x minus 1. So I almost don't have room to write it here. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to clear the working out, and then we'll examine what we've got after I've done that. So after doing an algebraic long division and getting our factors, we can see that one of the factors is a cubic. And so it's not like a quadratic where you can solve it using other methods. We've now got a cubic. And how do we factorize cubics? Well, it's what we've just done. We're going to have to do another algebraic long division. And again, we're going to need a starter kind of number to factorize in. Now, you can try 1 again, because you can have 1 as a factor more than once. So that'd be 1, take away 9, plus 26, take away 24. But that gives us negative 6, so that can't be a factor. So think about 24 and the factors of 24. We'll be thinking about things like 2, 3, 4, maybe even 6 to go in. So let's try 2. So that'll be 2 cubed, take away 9 lots of 2 squared, plus 26 lots of 2, take away 24. That's going to be 8. Take away 9 times 4, which is 36. 26 times 2 is 52. Take away 24. Hopefully all that equals 0. Try it out. Type into calculator. 8 take away 36 plus 52. Take away 24. And thankfully, I am getting 0. So we know that 2 is going to be a factor. So let's get rid of this working out. So we've got some space for long division. We're just going to be taking the cubic part and we're dividing it by x minus 2. Because again, if 2 is a factor, we need the opposite of that in the bracket. So now we're going to do our second algebraic long division for the question. Again, dividing through by x, we'll get x squared, x cubed minus 2x squared, which will give us negative 7x. Divide that through by x, negative 7x, which will give us negative 7x squared plus 14x. So then that would give us a 12x, divide that through by x, and then multiply it, and you should have remainder 0. So now we can write down our final expressions for this. So we have x minus 1, and then we have the x minus 2 just divided by, and then our answer, which was x squared minus 7x plus 12. So now we need to factorize the quadratic. So we know it'll be double brackets with x in both. We want to get 12 and a negative 7. So again, that's going to be 3 and 4. And to get negative 7, they are both going to have to be negative. So our answer is x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 4, and x minus 3. If it was equal to 0, our answers for x will be 1, 2, 3, and 4. For our last example, again, we have another one that's to the power of 4. So we're going to have to do algebraic long division twice. The first step is going to be to find our first factor by trial and error. So let's try 1. So substituting 1 is the easiest. Just read off the numbers. We've got 1, take away 11, plus 45, take away 81, plus 54. And that gives us 8. So it's not 0. So 1 is not going to be a factor. You can also try negative 1, and that's going to work the same way, but odd powers are going to flip the side. So that's going to be 1. That's going to be plus 11. Then it's going to be plus 45, it's going to be plus 81, and then plus 54. And that gives us, quite a large number. It's not a 0. So it's not going to be negative 1 either. Well, let's try 2. So that would be 2 to the power of 4, take away 11 lots of 2 to the power of 3, plus 45 lots of 2 to the power of 2, take away 81 lots of 2, plus 54. 2 to the power of 4 is going to give us 16. 2 to the power of 3 is 8, and times by negative 11 is negative 88. 2 to the power of 2 is 4, so 45 times 4 gives 180. Negative 81 times 2 gives negative 162, and then we're going to add on 54. So what will this give us? So type it all into your calculator, and this, surprisingly, does give us 0, so our first fact, 2. So set up the division with x minus 2. We divide through by x, and after our first step, we should have negative 9x cubed. The rest staying the same. Divide through by x again, and multiply, and take away. 45 take away 18 to give us 27, with the rest staying the same. Divide by x again, and multiply, and take away. That should give negative 27x plus 54. Divide that through by x, and multiply, and that again should give the remainder of 0. So the first step is that we have x minus 2, and then we have x cubed, minus 9x squared, plus 27x minus 27. And again, we've got a cubic that we need to repeat the process with. Now, what we could do here is that we could use trial and error to find another factor for the cubic and then do another set of algebraic long division. However, I know the answer to this one straight away. Now, it's because we think about the factors this could be. Our final number is a negative 27. So if you imagine we've got 3 brackets and the 3 numbers in the brackets have to multiply together to make 27. That means that we can't have 2 in the bracket, for example, because if 2 in the bracket, that's an even number, and we can't multiply that by anything to get a 27. Not if we're going to have whole number answers, which is very likely. So what else can we use for 27? Well, 3 comes to mind for 27, and then perhaps, 3 times 9 is 27, but you can have 3 numbers multiplied together. So it could be 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Another alternative could be you could have 27 times 1 times 1. You could have 3 times 9 times 1. So you might want to check first if 1 is a factor. But if we do that, we're going to get take away 9 plus 27, take away 27. We don't get 0 for this. So if we're thinking, got a limited number of factors, 3 is a choice, but also 1 could be a choice, then 1's not a factor. We're left with the 3s, and 27 is 2 to the power of 3, isn't it? It looks like we're going to have in our answer, just using a bit of logic here and knowing our factors, we're going to be having 3s here. So all that's left now is to work out if these are positive or if they're negative. And at least one has to be negative because we're trying to get a negative 27. Now, it's given that we think it's going to be 3 3s, at least 2 of these factors have to be the same. So we might have, for example, 2 positive 3s here. Or we could have more negative 3s. So what we could do is we could check if positive 3 is a factor. So that means we're going to have negative 3 squared minus 9 lots of negative 3 plus 27 lots of negative 3 minus 27. So we type each term into your calculator. Negative 3 cubed is negative 27. Negative 3 squared is 9, so that'll be negative 81. 27 times negative 3 will give us negative 81, and then we're taking away 27. Now it looks like we might be getting 0 here, except one of these is negative. We want a positive and a negative 81. So that means that 3 is not going to be a factor. So in a process of elimination, perhaps all of these are negative 3s then. And does negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 make negative 27? Well, we've got that in our substitution here, actually. Negative 3 to the power of 3 is negative 27. So it looks like we've got an answer here. Now, what I would do in the exam environment here is use methods like this just for checking your answer. And I would still do the algebraic long division. And if you think that this is what the answer is going to be, then you want to do a divide through with x minus 3 and see what that gets you. Now, I can say this actually is the answer. So always be looking out for kind of obvious things like cube numbers in a cubic or square numbers in a quadratic.
Ouch. That'd be too grim.